guys, today I wanted to do a video on the trait necromancer and hunt and why it's important. But before I get to that, the meat and potatoes, I'd like to talk about why I'm doing this video. I don't normally touch on that. It's pretty obvious why I'm doing it. It's an opinion, or it's a buff or a change or something to the game, and most of the times actually major things happen with Hunt Showdown and I let them pass without putting any comment in. The reason being is because either someone else is going to do an excellent job and therefore I don't believe I need to add my 2 cents, or the issue is just not important enough or exciting enough that I don't think it's going to be entertaining for you guys to listen to, or educational enough, which is usually my brand of content. Today, that is not what I'm doing. Today, I'm going to explain to you why I'm doing this video. I'm doing it because Hunt Showdown recently had a very popular streamer on Twitch playing it, Summit1G. He's very good at shooters. He has a long and storied history with competitive gaming, specifically in the shooter space. He's good at them. Very good at them, in fact. However, he played Hunt Showdown and he had some takes on the game that I don't really agree with. And that's okay. Opinions on absolutely anything are totally subjective to the person. I like pineapple and pizza. You don't. You think the Dolce's fair and balanced? I don't. That's okay. That's just how things work. It's okay for him to have that opinion on the game. However, when your audience, when your platform is just so monstrously large and you are spouting that opinion to the 30,000, 40,000, 50,000, whatever thousand people, well then you're gonna get a few people that take it on board and think, you know what, Hunt Showdown, stupid game, because if my favorite streamer doesn't like it, then I don't like it either. God, he's so good at games, and his criticism is so leveled and so constructive, and that's okay to think. However, if I have the ability to change anyone's opinion on something with reasonable, thought-out facts, as in facts about the game, then I'm going to do that. As I've got a couple thousand hours in this game, I feel like I'm qualified to do so. So, let's dive in. The thing I want to touch on first, though, before I get into it is, please, anyone in the comments, don't go after or attack anyone. I don't want to see zealotry down below. At the end of the day, having an opinion and having a large audience, it all just boils down to forms of tribalism, and that's just humans. That's who we are, and that's totally fine. We can be that way. However, if we can have intelligent discussions and discourse, that creates much greater things than calling someone a head in the comments, okay? And yeah, they probably are going to be just a giant head, and that's okay, because it's the internet, and there's giant heads everywhere. I'm a giant head. Oh, I didn't bleed that one. It doesn't matter. Okay, cool. So, necromancer in Hunt Showdown. It's not a game problem. It's a mentality problem. This mentality and this message is something I wholeheartedly believe in, and better than believe, I can prove it. In Hunt, the health bar distribution system allows players to have up to 5 lives to try again. Potentially infinite lives with the bounty token revives, but I'm not going to go into that just right now. The luxury, and this luxury for the longest possible time, was reserved for players who played in a team, meaning a small but meaningful population of the Hunt community. The solo players, they didn't get access to this ability. For the longest time, if you downed someone and they were a solo player, like actually a solo player, as in there wasn't a teammate lurking in the wings, they're dead. They're dead. Out of the game, back to the loading screen. But see, there is the problem. There's the problem right there. How do you know they're a solo player? You can't possibly. That's the beauty of Hunt. You can assume someone is a solo player, but you'll never know. As the old saying goes, assuming makes an ass out of you and your favorite streamer. Even before Necromancer existed in the game, people have been burning bodies. That's been around since Alpha, man. Alpha. But even after that, people have always concertina-wired and burned out players because they are afraid of the potential of that person not being a solo, but of having a partner. If you were someone who has played Hunt, as I'm aware I have viewers who don't play Hunt, they just like knowing and learning about it, think about the times that you have killed someone, downed someone, and you've burned them or concertina-wired or poison bombed them. In other words, think of a way that you have downed someone and then you've done something to prevent that person getting back up, assuming that they're going to have another player to revive them. You don't know that. You think that, and that's why you put that preventive measure in place. It's a safety measure, it's a preventative, it's a just in case. That's a big thing in Hunt. In the games that Summit primarily plays, the FPS video games like Apex Legends, Call of Duty, CSGO, some games don't even have the option to revive players, but the ones that do, you can usually tell when that's happening. There's either a notification or the person has to stand on the body and revive them. You have some way to punish and actively monitor if someone is being revived. You are aware of that. In Hunt Showdown, you don't really get that. Someone can just pop up behind you, and that was a problem that was introduced with the necromancer trait. Because prior to that, you did have to be revived manually. Someone had to stand on top of you, and you could punish that body. You can still watch a body for someone to just rise from the grave. You can do that, but it's a lot harder to do now because you can't see someone's physical body running over, standing on it, and channeling the revive action. The games that someone has come from, you do have that, by and large, anyway. Apex Legends has a big cooldown and a bloody massive dropship coming in. You can tell when people are being revived. COD, you can grab someone, you can pick them up, you can drag them, or you have to stand on top of them and do it. Suddenly the body is not there. You know they're being picked up. There are visual indicators to tell you that this is something that's about to happen. Because you have that visual indicator, psychologically, you are aware of this, you are prepared for this, you would dial in because you can understand that this is something I may now have to deal with. In Hunt, you do not have that. You never know when something's going to happen. It just happens. You have to prepare for everything. So, I reviewed a lot of Summit's complaints and the footage about Necromancer, and after coming through the footage, here's what I found. I can break it down into 3 simple things. Number 1, he didn't like that players could pop up behind him, specifically players that he believed to have already been killed. Number 2, he didn't like that players could be revived at a range, contributing to the whole backdoor spook thing. And number 3, he didn't like the multiple chances that it afforded other players. As I said before, but I would like to repeat, let's remember the kind of games that he comes from. A competitive background, a seasoned shooter. This is a man who is good at these things. FPS video games, CSGO, Apex Legends, Warzone, these are games for the most part that reward those with high mechanical skill and aiming, things that he definitely has and is demonstrated to have. Tactics, however, in those games, whilst very important, they can often take a back seat to someone who's just a frickin' laser beam with their weapon of choice. So, when you take someone who's really good at twitchy, fast-paced e-shooters, like Summit, and you throw them into something that's the opposite of that, would you expect them to perform well? I mean, the crosshair isn't centered, the game is slow-paced, glacially slow, in fact, and the time to kill is instant. This is a game that rewards tactics, knowledge, and tactical precision more than aiming mechanical precision. Sure, being an aiming god is gonna help you when the chips are down, but prior to that fight starting, you are just one bush on the sidewalk away from walking past it and getting jumped and smoked by someone camping with a shotgun. Hunt Showdown is a game that rewards the smarter player, not the better player. So, how does that relate to Necromancer? Well, it relates to Necromancer because it's a skill that is the antithesis of what many would consider fair play. Beforehand, I touched on you know when someone's being revived in those other titles. You can see it, there's a big indicator of it, or if the body is gone, you can psychologically prepare for that. You know what's going to happen. In Hunt, you don't get that. Necromancer, as I've said, is the antithesis of what you would consider fair play. It's a trait that allows you to revive people at a distance, or you can stand up yourself if you're a solo. Putting it simply, Necromancer is the trait version of that guy in the bush. You can be a 6-star sweatlord with a 15 KD, more hunt dollars that you know what to do with. But little Timmy 2-star who's afraid of his own shadow, and little Timmy 2-star whose duo partner died to hellhounds, who is holed up in a bush because he's terrified of everything, and you just walk past that, well, little Timmy 2-star blaps you with the Romero, and now you're dead. He smoked you. And you know why he smoked you? He did it because you didn't check the bush. You might have been the better player, but in that instance, you were not the smarter player. You didn't check. You didn't look. You didn't think. So, I'm sure there's going to be detractors that are going to say, how is dying and then getting back up smart? Well, as an action taken by itself, it's not. But the player who did down you, did they remember to burn you? Did they remember to bear trap you? Did they remember to concertina trap you, poison bomb you? Any myriad of options that the game has given the player to combat someone getting up. Did you remember to do that in the heat of the gunfight? Were you unable to do that in the heat of the gunfight because of distance? Were you unable to do that in the heat of the gunfight because of the range to the person you just downed? And if so, if you were unable to do that, did you communicate to your partner that this person's down? You most likely did, but I bet you didn't tell them, I haven't conk bombed them, I haven't conk trapped them, I haven't poison trapped them, I haven't burned them. You most likely didn't communicate that this person is down, and I have not done anything to remedy their ability to get back up. In Hunt, you can never know how much health someone has. Like literally, you can't. You can assume, but you can never know. In the same way, you can never be sure how many times someone has been downed or injured. Have you downed someone? Yes. Did a boss just get banished somewhere on the map? Yes. Could that possibly be that person's teammates? Possibly. They now have all their health back. Also, there's traits like Rampage and Remedy. Both of those traits allow you to get all your health bar back. One of them allows you to do it at a distance. Also, there's bone traits like Relentless, which can be found around the world. And more recently, Peacekeeper, which is a trait that allows you to loot dead hunters and get a bar back. There are so many ways in Hunt, so many ways in Hunt that people can get their bars back, even outside of the most recent events, that if you are going to assume that when you kill someone that they won't get revived either by a teammate or by themselves, or you're going to assume that when they get back up they don't have just as much health or slightly lower health than what they did when you put them in the ground, then that's naive at best, and it's just totally oblivious at worst. Simply put, when you down someone in Hunt, you should always assume that they can get back up, unless you can actually account for every body, 12 bodies. Unless you can count for 12 bodies, including your own, there can always be another player out there that can revive them. And as such, you should never assume, ever, that when someone's dead in Hunt, that they're going to stay dead. The problem is not necromancer. The problem is not reviving. It's not a game problem. It's a mentality problem. And once you understand the mentality, that this is something that can always occur, you're going to have a better time. Argue politely amongst yourselves in the comments. Have a good one.